Hello and welcome to RuralKingsInvesting.com, where our mission here is lifestyle freedom. We accomplish this through teaching the principles and sharing the strategies of how to invest in rural communities, both in real estate and in business. We welcome you to our station here. We look forward to talking with you a little bit about joint ventures a little bit further. So yesterday we talked about what is a joint venture and why we utilize them. And today we want to talk about the deal itself. What am I looking for in a deal? Like internally speaking, what am I trying to assess? Particularly what I'm trying to do is assess where my proficiency and my passion will meet. And then I take that, understanding what my skill sets are and assessing my skill sets, what I'm good at, what I'm great at, what I'm weak at, so that I can determine the resources and the value that I can bring to the marketplace or to the joint venture that ultimately I intend to engage in to accomplish a deal. And so whether it be a real estate deal or a business deal, whether I'm buying a company for a short or a long hold, or whether I'm buying a piece of real estate for a short or a long hold, ultimately what I need to determine is what value can I bring to the marketplace by implementing my skills and my resources that are readily available to me today. Oftentimes, I'll see it's easier for me to do a real estate deal. It's so much more black and white. Then we'll talk a little bit about business. But I come from the real estate world. So I started out as a real estate agent. I still hold a license today. I've had it since 2005. I actually own a brokerage with 14 agents and about 8 in staff, and have a property management company. And so I understood real estate. So real estate is one of those resources, one of those skills that was already readily available to me when I decided to start investing within the rural community that I live. And so when I did that, what I was accessible to was the MLS, which provided me resources of evaluation skills. So I had tax maps, and I had the ability to look and see what balances were owed, and I had the skill of understanding of how to go look at the title and seeing how much was liened against that, whether it was one lien or two liens, who owned it. And so I also had a little bit of marketing ability and sales ability. So these are skills and resources that I had available to me that I understood, and I thought I can bring that part to the marketplace when I would go to invest. I had the ability to manage the property, assuming that I was going to do a buy and hold. And I had contacts in the construction business, and in the inspection business, and in the insurance business. I actually hold an insurance license as well. I've had that, I think, since about 2007. So I had these skills already readily available to me when I got started, which was in 2006. And so when I went into a deal, I could typically have deal flow. So deal flow is short for just saying deals would come across my desk. Being in the real estate business through listing and sales, people would call into the office and say, "Oh, I've got this property I want to sell." Let's say that the example was, and this would be a real-time example, I'm not thinking of one particular, but there would be a divorce or a death that took place, a divorce that was taking place. So two people were going to split up, and the property is going to get sold, or one's going to need to be looking for something to rent or something to buy. And so, or ultimately they decided they were going to be moving out of the house. So they'd call and they'd say, "Hey, I've got this property, and whatever you can do to get us out of this deal as fast as possible. Like ultimately we owe X against the property. Let's say it's a property worth $200,000, and they're both going to run themselves in the ground through the divorce, and there's not going to be any money left anyway, but they just want to get out of that deal as fast as possible." And they said, "If you can just get somebody to bring us $100,000, and I would tell them, as I would be ethically responsible for doing, is tell them the value of the property, which would be $200,000. Now that might be not its present value. Maybe it needed some repairs, or maybe it needed some updating. But let's just assume for a moment that it's relatively, maybe there's $20,000 worth of things that needed to be done to that property. We thought it was worth 200, and they're like, look, if we could just get $100,000 and go, like, we're going to kill each other if we keep staying in this house together. We need to make our move. So again, me having the resources of understanding a deal, how to write the contract, so that's a skill all by itself, is writing a contract. Also being able to have the property inspected so I could make sure that I'm not entering into a deal that is not ultimately going to be beneficial in a net result at the end of the day after I spend money repairing or updating that property. And I had the ability to market the property at the end when the property is ready to go on the market. So those are resources. But back then I didn't have money. I mean, I had a little bit of credit, and I think I had a pretty good name. I think I was one that was recognized as maybe honest and a person of integrity. So what I did was I would go and determine how would I get the money to do this deal. So I would go and joint venture with someone within the community. My first one, I think I've shared this in our opening video, but his name was Mr. Flippin. Mr. Flippin was a local attorney in town. His office was just right up the street from mine. And I would go to Mr. Flippin and I'd say, Mr. Flippin, I've got this property that I believe is worth something. We've got what we would know in the industry, an industry term, which is called a fire sale. Someone ultimately needs money and they want it quick because they have a stressor in their life. In this example we're using is a divorce, and so they want to go. And Mr. Flippin, who has money that he's ready to deploy, and he has a good feel for who I am as a person, and he says, okay, I like that idea. How do you propose we do this? And I would say, Mr. Flippin, I believe that this property will sell for $200,000. I think that they're ready to do the deal at $100,000. I think it needs $20,000, but just to be safe, it could run into $30,000. I think we're going to need $130,000 for the deal. If you'll put up the money, I'll get the deal written up. I'll manage all the contractors. I'll manage the updating of the property, the management of the property, getting the insurance lined up, making sure the closing's all set up, and then you and I can enter into a joint venture. If you put up the money, I think for the money that we put up, for my portion, I'll pay you a 5% fee on that amount, and then we'll split the profits 50-50. So here is an example that I'm just using as a rough draft of where I have utilized my resources within a skill, with the skills that I have available to do a deal, and then I was resourceful and acquired a partner, a joint venture ally, and engaged into a joint venture contract, and together we went and purchased that property, fixed that property up. I took my time and my resources, which is my time because I had more of it, my skills in marketing and sales as it would apply to listing and selling the property and contract writing through the process. I took my skill of being able to acquire insurance and understanding the business, and so structured that deal so that ultimately at the end of the day there was profit. So again, what are we trying to do in a rural community to become a rural king? What we're trying to do is find allies, harmonious relationships where there are those who have resources that are not readily available to me within my own sphere of understanding and ability, and then taking my abilities and my skills and marrying them to my joint venture partner to ultimately accomplish the net result. So in that scenario, again, we will have exposed $130,000. By the time we pay real estate commissions and pay the time for holding the property, the insurance, the taxes, the utilities, and so on and so forth, Ultimately, we netted around 50 grand in that deal. I know those are rough numbers. That's what the deal evaluation is for, and that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is identifying how and what to do a joint venture and a deal within a rural community with the resources that you have, and then marrying up and levering up in a joint venture to accomplish a deal for a net result. Ultimately, in that deal, if I really was going to break it down, I know it was an example deal, but I've done hundreds and hundreds of those in my past. I would probably end up with actual time invested. It's hard to recall back what it would look like in 2007, but I'm going to give a little conservative. I'd probably have 10 actual hours of invested time. Okay. So I probably got a number junkie back there. I've got a calculator for him, my son, and maybe he'd do it. What's $25,000 divided by 10? $2,500 an hour. Now that is where we are utilizing our skills, levering up into a joint venture, and ultimately accomplishing a result for the time and money that's been invested. Mr. Flippin had the initial meeting with me. After I showed him the deal, he probably had 10 minutes in writing the check. I went and did the closing, and at the end of the day, he also made $25,000. And ultimately, he probably had less than 1 hour invested in that deal, and he made $2,500. Why did he do it? Well, the first thing is we talked about the who. He had a belief that I was a person of integrity and that I didn't try to overpromise and underdeliver on what my skills were that I would bring to the table. He brought the money to the table. I think I left out the fact that we did 5%. I do want to bring that in for my portion, so I would have had to pay interest on that. I'm not going to try to do that math right now. I want you to get the gist. I want you to get the big picture. You know, the goal through the videos in Rural Kings Investing, we'll teach you more particular skills along the way, but I want you to really broaden your mind and give yourself an awareness of what's available to you even in your rural community where you live today. If this has been an encouragement to you, if this has been something that you believe is possible for you, we ask you to continue to fellowship with us here at ruralkingsinvesting.com, where again our goal is lifestyle freedom, and we're going to put out more community content that's free, and we're excited about sharing some of these skills and these resources and resourcefulness pieces with you. And come back and visit with us again at ruralkingsinvesting.com. Again, my name is Joshua Lynn Arnold, and we appreciate you being with us today. God bless.